everybody. We are live. It is Wednesday. It is Thanksgiving week. Wishing everybody in the US and Americans everywhere a really happy Thanksgiving. So big week. And today on the show, we're going to be talking about fintech, which is a huge, huge subject that actually isn't talked about very much. And in a way, I don't understand why. I mean, we are in such a complex industry where we handle millions of dollars of payments one way or another to multiple suppliers, and yet we don't tend to use very efficient fintech solutions. And fintech has been the biggest revolution that we have seen in financial services in, say, the last, 20, 30 years. So we're going to be talking about fintech, and it's really interesting, really exciting stuff. So if you've never thought about fintech in the context of global mobility, do make sure you watch the show today. So let's see who we've got coming in. I see we've got David Linton coming in. Happy Thanksgiving, he says. We've got Nicola from Germany. We've got Rob coming from, I think Rob's out in Boston, so in Cambridge, I think. So people coming in from all over the world at the moment, which is just great. Who else? Mark from down in Dallas. So fascinating subject we're going to be talking about today. And actually, we've got a really interesting subject next week as well. By the way, I should say, if you're out there in LinkedIn world, please do join in the conversation. Write in the comments box. Let us know who you are, where you are. It's really important to us because that's how we know who's in the audience. It's also how you know which of your friends and colleagues are in the audience elsewhere in the world too. So just as many people have done, drop us a note in the comments box saying, well, as simple as howdy or where you are in the world or what's on your agenda at the moment. Anything, just let us know. Hi there to Steve Hoffman coming in from Boston. People coming from all over the world. Shout out to all of you. Next week, we've got a really interesting subject. We often look at mobility from the perspective of the assignees, the transferees. We look at mobility from the perspective of ourselves as the global mobility managers. We might look at mobility from the perspective of the vendors. We might look at mobility from the perspective of the business unit. But how often do we look at mobility from the perspective of the children? Next week, we're going to be talking about, we've called it family footprints. We're going to be talking about moving with children, and we're going to be turning the telescope, and we're going to be looking at global mobility, but from the perspective of the kids who are being moved or who. So that's going to be a really fascinating subject. By the way, if you do want your CPE credits, and I know a lot of you do collect your CPE credits, then when you get them from ERC, and many thanks to everybody at ERC, those are your GMS and CRP credits. If you want your credits from HRCI or from SHRM, then courtesy of our really good friends at Rocket Mortgage, those are the credits you'll need there. So if you do want credits for ERC, for HRCI, for SHRM, then the credits are there. Just jot down the relevant number or get your phone out and take a photo of it as it flashes across the bottom of the screen, or screenshot it. I'll leave that up there for a moment or two more. Meanwhile, what I do want to do is just share with you the breaking news that's been going on in our industry. We always like to share a little bit of what's been going on in our industry over the last 7 days. So what has happened to global mobility over the last 7 days? Let's find out. news from our industry. Really some exciting breaking news there. Congratulations to everybody who's been promoted, everyone who's got a new job, anything like that, or many congratulations. And I'd like to give a couple of particular shout outs. First of all, you may have noticed as we played that video that there's been a merger announced between PricePoint and Send. So congratulations to, in particular, to Ben Heller, a great friend of the show, for completing that merger. So that's a good, well done to you, Ben. Wish you all the best for the future, and congratulations to that. And the other shout out I'd like to give actually is, again, you probably saw in the breaking news that Smith & Nephew are hiring a new global mobility director. And the reason for that is that one of the legends of our industry, Kim Woodlock, who is the director of global mobility at Smith & Nephew, is in fact retiring in April. So still a few months to go, but we wish her all the best in her retirement over the next, starting in the next few months. And obviously good luck finding a really great replacement there. So lots of breaking news going on in our industry. But every week we also like to give you an immigration update. And every week we are super delighted, super honored to have with us Fragment's Julia Onslow Cole. So everybody, you know how it works. Hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button, and let's say welcome to our very own immigration guru, Julia Onslow Cole.
Hi, Brian.
How are you doing?
Very well. Oh, happy Thanksgiving to Sandra and everyone. And I hope they all.
We've got loads of people tuning in from the US. I must admit, I thought we were going to get less than normal from the US with, everybody busy cooking their turkeys or whatever, or traveling to see their family. But so many of you tuned in, and we just love the loyalty that you're showing to us in the show. So, Julia, what are you going to talk about today?
I'm going to talk about remote working because there's been a lot in the news about it. So I thought it's just interesting having a quick 4-minute update about remote working. And I'm looking not just at immigration, but the wider global mobility trends. And I wanted to give a big shout out to Charlotte Wills from Fragment for preparing these notes for me. And in January, Charlotte and I are going to Geneva to the Global Forum of Migration and Development, which is a non-governmental organization. It's government-led but non-binding. And Charlotte has written a paper for that on remote working. So what we're seeing,
well done.
Yeah, so what we're seeing is there's quite a lot of leaked emails from different companies about their policies on remote working. And one enormous employer, there was a leak a few days ago where they had told their employees that unless they get back to the office 3 days a week, be blocked from any promotion. Sky News did an analysis of LinkedIn and said, if you look at LinkedIn, remote job postings have actually gone down 28% since August 2021, but hybrid up 34% in the last year. And there's been a number of other reports that are actually, I think, worth mentioning. One was by Forbes. They did a big report on the impact of remote working on revenue growth. And they looked at 554 public companies. And they did it in conjunction with Boston Consulting Group. And they found, on average, they thought that there was more revenue growth if you did adopt at least a remote or hybrid working. And they actually measured it at 16%. There was another report recently in the last month by Sky News saying that, there was a lot of people leaving the workplace because of the call to return full time, and that, it was particularly difficult and was harsh for people with children, and so it had an adverse impact on social equality. And then finally, there was a US report in the last month which said that if you look at sustainability and ESG, people who work remotely produce less than half the greenhouse gas emissions of office workers. So I think that, that's all very interesting. And Fragment has its own trends report in which we are picking up a lot of these issues. Now, what I just wanted to say finally, which is really bringing it back to immigration, is that governments have actually recognized that by tweaking then digital nomad policy, they can actually attract talent. And they're now really relaxing the rules on digital nomads to really bring people to their countries. And one country that's been a standout success on that is Canada. So they are actually close to becoming a leader in global tech talent recruitment. So they have done this by a number of things, but one of their key policy decisions was to allow people to go to Canada and work remotely effectively as easy as being a visitor, and then having a policy where you could switch from being a visitor into the workforce. And this is particularly aimed at tech talent. So I think that's quite clever. And finally, I was going to say that the Japanese government have also suddenly realized this. And next week, I'm going to concentrating on Japan. I thought actually, after reading this report for today, we haven't actually talked about it, but there's a lot of very interesting economic things going on in Japan. But they too are revamping their whole digital nomad because they want to become Asia's largest startup hub. And they think by attracting digital nomads in the same way as Canada, bringing them into Japan and then getting them to switch to another status is a way forward. So I think it's just quite interesting, all these developments, and interesting about the relaxation of the rules.
Yeah, and as Trish McDonald says there, I'll just pull that one back up. Trish says, cross-border remote work continues to challenge our global mobility team on finding solutions to business demands. Trish, just to take your comment, I think you're spot on there. And if it's any consolation, I'm feeling your pain there. I think there are so many of us in exactly the same boat that we're all trying to work out exactly what our organizations are going to do on remote working. So I think it's a really important area for us as an industry to pull together. Julia, thank you so much for that update on remote working. I think very, very timing. Michelle, bless you. Thanksgiving or not, would not miss this show. And I think somebody else said, maybe it was Rob Zide said, yeah, this is like Thanksgiving dinner with your mobility family. I just wish I had a turkey here to be eating whilst talking.
I've never ever been to a Thanksgiving dinner, and I honestly think I'm so missing out because I absolutely love turkey and I love corn and I love all the trimmings. So my whole ambition is to be in the US for Thanksgiving one year. That would be lovely.
I'm with you on that. I do know, and I won't say who, but one of our mobility community is every year for many years a clown in the Macy's Thanksgiving parade. If anyone know who it is, put it in the comments. I'm not going to disclose it unless others know too. Anyway, we're going to move on. I'm delighted to say that we've now got our change maker for the week. We've got the wonderful Nicole Younes from FTI. So everybody, you know how it works. Hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button. Let's say thank you to the wonderful Julia Onto-Cole and welcome onto stage the equally wonderful Nicole Younes.
Hi, Brian.
Good to see you. Now, lay a couple of extra places because Julie and I are going to pop round your place for Thanksgiving dinner tomorrow. So we're desperate to have a Thanksgiving dinner. Anyway, thank you so much for your time, for giving up time. I know it's a really busy week for everyone in America with Thanksgiving. I hope you're having a great celebration yourself tomorrow.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. So, Nicole, let's start talking about the charity. You support a charity called Deborah's Place. So tell us, who's Deborah and what is her place?
Deborah's Place is Chicago's oldest and largest provider of permanent supportive housing for women experiencing homelessness. So they believe that supportive housing and services offer women their key to healing, achieving their goals, and moving on from the experience of homelessness.
Okay. And what we do with the Benivo, with the Changemakers Initiative, is we try and support people in our community who in turn are supporting charities. So everybody can nominate their charity. You've nominated Deborah's Place. Obviously, it's a charity that's dear to your heart and is local to you in Chicago. If anybody else would like to be a change maker, we've got about 150 now, then do approach either me or Tally and we'll see what we can do. But Nicole, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get into this mobility game?
So after I finished university, my first job out of college was as an immigration paralegal, and I just grew into the space from there. I spent the first 5 years on a legal team doing immigration paralegal work on both the employer and family-based side. And then maybe in 2017, I transitioned to an HR team and have grown in the immigration space there. And then in 2019, I was given the opportunity to take on a North America mobility lead role. And that's when I've grown into the mobility and immigration space as a whole. So my focus now is not only the Americas, mostly US and Canada, but all of the Americas, but APAC as well.
Okay. And for the people who don't know it, tell us a bit about FTI and what you guys do and your program.
FTI, sure. FTI is a global business advisory firm. They're headquartered in Washington, D.C. They have offices across EMEA, APAC, NORAM, and LATAM. And then they have different segments that have different service offerings, whether it's corporate finance, corporate communications, economic consulting, et cetera.
Cool. Okay. Well, Nicole, and you've got a passion for technology. I'm guessing that's what you enjoy. Is that what you get out of being a change maker? Or let me turn that around. Why do you enjoy being a change maker? What's in it?
A bit. Well, I think it's a nice way to bring the global mobility function forward because Benivo's doing some really great things. So my thought is that, data analytics and automation is a way for us to improve the global mobility function as a whole. So it allows us to operate more efficiently. We can implement metrics and demonstrate to the business their ROI. And I think that most importantly, it allows us to improve the employee experience.
Okay. It's interesting. I mean, I think we're talking about talent mobility a lot, but more and more I'm seeing the focus on actually employee experience and that end. But we've got some amazing fintech, which we're going to be showing in just a few minutes. So, Nicole, thank you so much for being with us on the show. We'll bring you back towards the end of the show to join us. But we're now going to move on to talk about fintech. Before we do, I'm going to bring our producer, Tally, on stage, just saying a little bit about some of the new developments in Benivo land, and also a little bit of an update about where we are on the top 100 list, which is really, really exciting. Nominations for that have now closed. But what we are going to tell you now is the date where we're actually going to reveal what the results are going to be. So I'm going to run that little video and I'm going to bring Tally onto stage. So everybody, hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button. Let's say thank you to Nicole Yunez and that wonderful charity, Deborah's Place. And we'll see her at the end of the show. And welcome onto the stage the equally wonderful Tally Gorin.
Hello, Brian. I missed the screen.
I know, we haven't seen you for a while. You've been backstage pressing buttons and making sure everything works smoothly. And just on behalf of everybody in the global mobility industry, many, many thanks for all the amazing work you do backstage. But tell us about the big reveal. I see it says there December 13th. Tell us about the format of the show and everything that's going on between now and then.
So the nomination is closed, as we said, and I really want to thank everyone for submitting their votes. And we have an amazing list of candidates, and I wish we could include everyone, but we can't. Then it won't be the top 100, right? So unfortunately, we need to choose 100 out of everyone that was nominated. And I was sending an email to everyone who was nominated because it is a great achievement in any case. But if you want to know if you were picked as to be one of the top 100, you'll have to join the big reveal, which will be on December 13. And on that day, we're going to have our partners who are supporting this nomination. We're going to have them with us in the panel, but we're also saving a spot in the panel for one of our top nominators, and they are going to join us in the studio. So if you guys, one of you nominated more than 5 candidates, please check your mailbox, because one of you already got an invitation to the studio, and I'm hoping you, she, he will respond positively and will join us. So next week, I'll tell you who it's going to be.
And we've got with us on that show, we've got our partners. So I know Julia from Fragment will be out with us.
Julia will be there. We're going to have Cheryl Young with us.
Cheryl Young from Vialto, who has been a guest on the show before. Great to see her. We've got Simon from ITX and Mike from Rocket Mortgage. What a great panel we've got.
True. So just before I leave you, Brian, because you have a really interesting show, I want to quickly mention a few opportunities to meet our team. And I'm going to share all the links once I'm off the screen. I'm going to share all the links in the comments. So if you're in Chicago next week, you can meet Mary in the Chicago Relocation Council meeting. And that's on Thursday. And before that, she's going to do a Tech Connect breakfast. So I'll put a link to that, and she'll be happy for you to join. And if you're in Washington in the beginning of December, on the 6th, you'll be able to meet Cara at GWERC, the Greater Washington Relocation Council, and then at the CMARC, the day after that, the Charlotte Metro Relocation Council. So Cara will be there. And I'll be sharing all the links in the comments. So if you're in the area, please drop by and say hi to the team. And that's it for today.
Okay, so let's get on to the main subject of the day. We're going to be talking about fintech in global mobility, which may not sound sexy, but it really, really is. It's such a big area, and we'll talk about that. And I'm delighted that we're going to be bringing onto the stage Matt Chic and Yael Shaked from Benivo, who are going to be talking about fintech in global mobility. So everybody, again, you know how it works. Hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button, and let's welcome onto the stage Matt Chic and Yael Shaked as we talk about fintech in global mobility.
Hi, Brian.
Hi to you both. And I just want to give real kudos to Yael before we start, because I know you've got an unwell toddler at the moment, or an unwell child, and you're still here, and I know you've got others looking after him, but thank you. I know it can't be easy for for you, but we really, really appreciate you being with us, and we wish him better as well soon. Hopefully it's just a bug. He'll be better in the morning.
Thanks, Brian. Fortunately, I have a tribe helping out, so yeah.
Excellent. Anyway, so thank you very much. We're going to be talking about fintech, and it's interesting because on the one hand, mobility is a very, very simple industry. All we have to do is move Joe, and I've chosen a name that can be either a male Joe or a female Joe. All we have to do is move Joe from one country to another. It's not difficult. That's all we have to do. That's all what the line expects. What can be so difficult? Well, of course, what we know as mobility professionals is that is so difficult. There's all the immigration rules, there's the tax rules, but let's put those to one side. There's also actually how you do it. And we handle, one way or another, we handle a very complex supply chain. We need to pay the employees. We need to pay them relocation allowances. They've got expenses that need reimbursement. Maybe we need to give them advances or loans. We've got vendors that need paying. I mean, there's a lot of money flowing through mobility, but yet historically, people haven't really talked about it in terms of fintech. So I'll address my first question to you, Matt, and just tell me, what has it been like traditionally, and what is the traditional model, and why is it broken? Let's just discuss the problem before we come on to discussing the solutions.
All right. Well, I think that what we have seen is that the model, traditionally being an industry that has been around for many, many decades, is that there were a lot of the processes built to deliver services and an increasingly long list of services to corporate clients that are powered by people, by hardworking people, by talented people, but powered by people, which means that a lot of this industry has been powered manually. And when I say manually, I mean emails, phone calls, spreadsheets, taking care of checklists, keeping reminders up to date, and teams working well with each other. And that extends into payments. And what we have kind of come to understand is that the actual payments ends up being quite a huge part of this industry, because there's two parties to pay. There's employees to pay, and that's part of their compensation. It's also critical to be taking care of their expenses, because that is, in fact, a critical part for them being able to move. And then there's obviously all of the expense management on the supply side of the equation, because there's a lot of different service providers that are powering services for those employees. So we really see generally in the traditional model, and with a specific focus on payments, a huge opportunity to move from manual-driven processes, forms, spreadsheets, email, confirm receipt, chase if you don't get an answer, send a message to follow up on something, to systems and automated processes, and there's a huge opportunity to do that with payments.
Yeah, because I suppose even a small program, you're talking about tens of millions of dollars being paid out, and a large program, you're talking about many hundreds of millions of dollars of payments being paid out. So these are not insignificant sums that are being paid, and historically they're done incredibly inefficiently. And I always try and compare things to my everyday life. That's, I call it the pizza delivery analogy. I've said often on this show, why do I get better technology when I'm buying a pizza than when I'm managing a relocation? But if I look at fintech, in my everyday life, if I want to pay somebody, and I don't know what it's like in other countries, but where I am, I just go on my phone. I've got my app. I just go face recognition or whatever it is, press a couple of buttons, and you pay, the payment's made, and the payment is there pretty much instantaneously. And that's not how it works in mobility. I mean, sometimes it can, weeks to get expenses reimbursed, vendors pay. It can be complex and manual. So I suppose my follow-up question to you, Matt, and I'll bring you into the conversation afterwards, Yael, is Matt, how can fintech transform global mobility? what's the goal? What's the golden goal we're going for?
A few areas that we are really focused on. So the first one is as you just hinted at, is speed, and we really see a huge opportunity with employee experience and speed of getting paid. That could be speed of getting paid for something that I've just spent money on. So, I want to get reimbursed for that. And if I've just spent my own money on it, but ultimately the company is going to cover it, I don't really want to wait at all in order to get reimbursed because I'm not supposed to be out of pocket. And so speed of fintech, speed of being able to process those payments is a huge opportunity to improve employee experience. And also just something like speed of getting my allowance payment, right? So if I'm starting my move, all the services have been initiated for me. I know that I'm going to get a lump sum, or part of my Core Flex policy benefit is that I can choose to take a cash payment, or I'm on an assignment and I'm eligible for ongoing allowances. I ideally would like to just get paid, right away when that allowance is requested. And I don't want to have to go through a process in order to put it in and then chase to make sure that it's happened. So the difference in employee experience between getting your payment 2 weeks after filling out the form and sending it in, or 2 seconds after requesting it on a piece of technology is really a huge difference.
Absolutely, yeah. And I was going to say that it's that employee experience that is so important. I think we're going to be covering some of that in a moment, Yael, with you when we're getting on to, the areas around expense reimbursement and also pay later. So Matt, you were just about to follow on our second point then.
Yeah, well, just a couple of extra ones is actually moving a lot of that experience to the phone to match what we do in our consumer lives. We run everything off of our phone. And we also can use some of the innovations in fintech to create new opportunities for employers. So one example of that we're going to come on to and do a live demo of later is our Pay Later feature, which enables employers to solve cash flow, but without creating new complications for themselves. They don't need to do anything different with payroll. They don't need to create a new process. They don't even need to specifically ask employees if they need help. It's a great way to improve equity and socioeconomic approach to equity there. We're going to talk about that. And when you have all of these payments going out from the employer's perspective, you also want it to be ultimately clean and simple in order to bring it all into one place for comprehensive financial planning, for analysis, for tracking, what did I budget and where did the spend go? And the combination of platforms with integrated fintech can make this happen.
Well, let's do it. Let's get into the detail. I'm just conscious of time here. We're going to move on because I'm sure the audience want to really understand exactly how we can do it. So Yael, bringing you into the conversation, I want to start talking about expense reimbursement. There are, as I talked about, there's various areas, but we're going to start with a simple question of reimbursing expenses. So what is the fintech solution? What can we do and how can we make the execution of payments instantaneous? Just tell us a bit about the expense reimbursement solution.
So on top of the instantaneous experience that we discussed and how important that is, I think there's another element that Matt touched slightly when he was talking about the existing solution in the industry and kind of what's wrong with it. And it doesn't sound, as you described, Brian, doesn't sound very sexy, but actually having a clear, consolidated audit trail is something that is so helpful for both the employee and the employer, right? Like, can you imagine the experience of tracking where is that email where that expense was approved? So I think,
I've never heard the word audit and sexy in the same sentence before.
I mean,
but I'm with you so far anyway. So you carry on.
I think that the additional element to talk about is the kind of consolidation and how much time it actually saves all parties on it, right? Yeah. Where it's not just done via emails, it's done within a specific tool, and that tool logs every action, every invoice, every correspondence around that invoice, any approval, when it was given, by whom was it given. You don't have to start reaching out to all of these, the department of 20 or 50 people to kind of try and track down who made the call and when and what and why.
Okay, so maybe we should actually do a little bit of a demo. If I share your screen, Matt, can you just give us an example of how it works? So let's just, I'll just bring this onto stage.
Absolutely.
Okay,
so let's keep going with the theme of speed. So we're looking. We were just talking about expense reimbursements. So let's see how that can happen in a few taps rather than a few forms and a lot of communication. So we have this module expenses built on our money tab, and it works just like you have potentially had the opportunity to use any other business travel app. I'm going to simply, I have an expense, I know what my rules are here, and the system has got all of the expense reimbursement rules pre-programmed, which means that the system is going to decide whether it is going to approve it or not approve it, or do a partial approve and a partial payment. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to upload an actual receipt, and you're going to see the process of the system scanning the receipt, taking out the information so that I don't have to put this into a form. And voila, here we go. So I do have to pick a category. This one was an excess baggage receipt, and it pulls out the data. I'm going to do one correction to that data, which is that it was 104 even. And I see that there's some validation that came onto the tool here. So I'm trying to claim $1,200, but actually my excess baggage receipt, my excess baggage rules only are going to reimburse me right away for $300 because that's within policy. And then I can go ahead and request an exception if I have a good reason for it for the balance of the amount. But what I can still get paid out right now is for my policy amount of $300. And I'm going to just go ahead and select how do I want to get that reimbursed to me, and I proceed forward with the steps. But those, the how we get paid, we're going to show in the next piece of the demo.
Okay, so that's really cool. So what we're showing there is that you can just take an expense, you can just scan it. But what is unique, I think, about the Benivo system there is that it then compares it to policy and will then authorize payment automatically, or you write in whatever exception rules you want, where you want to have a manual override on that. So that's very cool. So we're going to do an expense reimbursement later, but that's not with, so I'll take this one off screen if I'm right, Matt. So
that's right. Yeah. So that was the expense reimbursement, and then we're going to show how you get paid for that in the next demo. Okay,
so we'll do that. Before we do, I think we're going to move on to talk about a separate area called pay later. Now, this is a solution that is unique, as I understand it, to Benivo, the pay later concept. And it's something that we've had very much from our earliest days as a business. And I think tens of millions of pounds have been used, of dollars have been paid via pay later. So, Yael, tell us a bit about pay later. And then I think as you go through, I'll sort of share some of the client reactions to what we've seen with pay later. But explain the concept.
So the concept is quite simple, and it's quite simple, but to a lot of people who have experienced it, it was quite a shock to encounter it. The concept is to enable employees to access interest-free funds ahead, usually at a timeline that's kind of ahead of when they would actually receive the lump sum, or actually have access to the DSPs, or the even temporary accommodation if it's provided to them, to grant them that kind of, to get that extra step to help them be in a healthy financial situation as part of their move, because we know that policies sometimes restrict you to accessing funds based on when, based on your work start date, based on your move date. And it is the case that a lot of people have to spend out of pocket as part of their relocation or assignment process. So pay later grants you, yes.
It's a real problem, isn't it? You know, and I know this all started many years ago with a major tech company that was a client of ours, and they're still a client of ours, major tech company, and their concern was they wanted to pay people before they joined with their allowances, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't pay them. So we found a way, and I'll just pull up some of the quotes, and these are all quotes from genuine clients. So one client, what a relief to be able to access interest-free funds. And that's a good point, actually, Yael. The money that is provided is, tell us about how it's paid and how it's reimbursed.
So the access is instant, as Matt will demonstrate shortly, and there is kind of a pre-configured repayment plan that is anchored around your work start date, basically making sure that you don't have to start repaying that money until you're into payroll. And I think the one of the great things about that quote that you displayed at the very start is that word relief. And, this genuine feedback from employees, a sense of relief that is, that is so powerful to deliver that benefit to employees, to put them in that place where they can actually kind of relax around this move and get excited about it and not have to stress.
It helps stress. I think it probably in some ways also helps diversity, because people may not be able to afford to move, or they'll have a struggle. I mean, is that something that you've seen?
Absolutely. I think that quote that's displaying on the screen right now is one of many that we've seen, especially, I mean, I wouldn't say only, but definitely around early careers, graduates, interns, people fresh out of college. This has a major impact on their lives. It's not just it's not a perk. It's a game changer. People who otherwise couldn't necessarily take up on these amazing opportunities that, could have a long-lasting impact on their entire lives. But sometimes in order to take that opportunity, you need to have that extra support, that extra funding, and not everyone has it from.
Okay, so I'm going to bring Matt into the conversation, because one of the things we've talked about, one of the wonderful things about fintech, is the fact that transfers of money are instantaneous or near instantaneous. We're talking minutes, whereas maybe getting reimbursed typically or being paid an allowance can take weeks, and sometimes weeks and weeks. Here we're talking about minutes. So Matt, if I share your screen again, perhaps you can just show us through how this actually works in practice. And let's do a live payment.
Absolutely. So we're going to do a live payment on the Benivo Changemakers platform. One of the benefits of being a changemaker is that you do have direct access to all of the technology that Benivo is building. And we even allow you to play with the payment system. So as Yael was explaining about, providing the upfront cash flow support to an employee, usually those amounts are for $3,000, $3,500 to actually be able to put down a deposit for a house, or to buy furniture, or pay for travel, whatever you need to do. But for the purpose of example and for testing, we have pay later access for up to $20 for changemakers today. So put yourself into the shoes of a relocating employee. Pretend that this says, let's say, $2,000 instead of $20, and let's walk through the process. So I'm an employee. I know that I'm not going to get paid for a month, but I need to pay for things now. My employer has given me access to this. And as Yael said, it is a game changer, because I don't have any interest. There's no fees to me. I'm going to get money right away that I use for my expenses. And then I'm simply going to pay it back to the system after I'm getting paid on salary. So let's walk it through. First, I need to agree that, yes, I am going to repay this money. Next, I'm going to say, how much do I want? So Brian, what's your favorite number between 1 and 10?
7.
And Matt, if I may,
where did you get that idea
for a
from?
second, this is a point to kind of stall on, because you can select to receive some of the funds at a certain point in time, and then the rest. at another one, which, especially for international movers, has a big impact on the experience. And we'll talk about it more in the payout methods.
That's right. That's right. So I've selected £7. I see here, what is my repayment schedule? And this is tied to after I start work. So after I'm getting paid. And I see that I have the option to put some money on a virtual card, which gives me instantaneous access to be able to spend from my phone. So here are my choices for how I'm going to receive money. We want to demonstrate today the speed of a bank transfer, so we're going to do bank transfer. But if you remember when I was showing you the receipt for the expense reimbursement, I get all of these options as well. So I can get it to a virtual card, which can go straight on to Apple Pay or Google Pay. I can get it to PayPal, or I can get it to a bank account. And so for the purpose of today, I've already set up the bank account. So I'm going to choose this method for the bank account. And now, because it's pay later, I also need to say, how am I going to repay these funds? So I've set up my card. I can also change this card on the system at any time. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's going to give me a final confirm. I'm going to submit it. And I need to do one more step, which is like any good fintech system, I do need to do a verification code. So I'm going to do the verification code. I'm looking at the code that I just received on my email right now. And as long as I can punch it in correctly, we're going to be able to test the speed of getting this payment. So off we go. The payment is now running. And I have a bank account over here opened to demonstrate that right now we do not have a £7 payment. I'll go ahead and refresh it. So the last payment in was £1 from Benivo. We're going to check back in a couple of minutes and see if that £7 payment has arrived.
Okay, so let's just take that off for a moment whilst that's coming through. And then we're going to move on to a different subject. And Matt, tell us when you got the payment through. So if you keep an eye on that, and we'll come back to it in a moment. So we've talked about expense reimbursement. We've talked about pay later. But of course, a whole other area that is really important to us is simply paying relocation allowances. So tell us, Matt, how can we pay relocation allowances through a fintech solution?
We can pay the relocation allowances through the fintech exactly how I've just demonstrated, with the important exception that if it is your allowance, of course, you don't need to make any repayments. So this is using the speed of the Benivo Fintech system for actually getting that money into the employee's hands.
So shall I pull that? Shall I share your screen now?
Let me just finish logging into the.
Right, so in a second.
And Brian,
Yael.
I think again, like in relation to both pay later, expense reimbursement, relocation allowance, the importance of enabling the employee to actually select how they're going to get paid, shouldn't be underestimated, because we know that the industry usually, nope, you have to have a bank account in your destination country, or no, it has to be a prepaid physical card that's going to be posted to you via mail. So giving the employees the freedom to select not only how I'm going to get paid, or potentially if I'm moving countries, and actually I want to have 300 right now into my home country account, and the rest once I open a bank account after I relocate, so I don't have to deal with transferring funds. It's unheard of.
Absolutely, because opening a bank account can be really difficult sometimes in a foreign country, but just be able to get the money immediately onto Apple Pay or Google Pay or virtual card, it's a game changer. And as we've talked about, the money does come through within minutes rather than days or weeks.
All right, Brian, we're all ready to go.
Okay, we'll share your screen. That's coming up now. Okay, so what are we looking at now?
All right, so I'm over into another account that has the relocation allowance set up for it. And we are going to show the flow for getting paid that relocation allowance with the same speed. So I start here. I see how much I'm going to receive. Very good. but we are going to handle the operational process in the flow itself. So for one, I need to agree to the terms that are included within my relocation policy. Good, I confirm that I agree to these. And I also need to sign a repayment agreement because this is part of my compensation. This is conditional on me moving. And so if I don't move, then of course I need to actually pay it back. We do that right here in the flow with an integration with DocuSign. So I can review this repayment agreement. I can actually sign it right there and go ahead and complete the process. I can go ahead and sign the document. Good, I'm going to sign it. And then I can go into the process of saying, how much do I want? When I pick how much I want, then I have my same great options of how I want to get paid. So I want bank account, PayPal, or that virtual card. So just a few minutes ago, we did the actual payment into this online bank account. We were looking for £7 to have arrived. And we can see that, in fact, £7 have arrived in the span of about 6 minutes. So you can imagine
exactly. So rather than weeks that it can take to get an expense reimbursed or a payment approved, it's done within minutes. Here, I was timing it. It was about 5 minutes or so that we did it in.
That's right. Cash in hand, so I can put down the deposit for the place that I want to rent, or onto a virtual card, so I can turn around and buy my travel or any of the other incidental expenses that everyone incurs over the course of their move. So this is the type of speed that we can deliver to employees that delivers a fantastic experience, makes them very happy, and solves some really critical pain points.
Okay, so we'll take that off now. Just we're getting towards the end. We've got quite a bit more to cover. So I want to cover onto another area. We've talked about expense reimbursements. We've talked about pay later. We've talked about relocation allowance. Of course, the other really big area where money flows is simply paying the supply chain, paying vendors. So Matt, tell us a bit about paying vendors using a fintech solution.
Yeah, absolutely. I could even speak to this as we look at the demo if you wanted to put the screen back up.
Sure, will do. Here we go.
All right, so the technology that I showed everybody earlier for an employee reimbursing an expense is the same technology that we also use to extract the data and validate a service provider invoice. So you win all of the speed and ease of admin and invoices coming into the system, data being extracted and organized for the purpose of reporting. And where this really gets powerful is how it relates to all the other components of the system. So we have now, I'm in the role of a case manager or a global mobility team. I'm behind the scenes managing the program. And in one place, I have both. I have all of my actual invoices. So what am I spending on a particular case? But what I also did before that is that I was able to do all of my cost estimates. And so in the same place, you have the cost estimate, which ends up, when approved, being the budget for that move. Then you have all of the spend that is coming in on that approved move into your invoices. And because they're in the same place, that enables us to get into being able to track automatically the budget to actual cost. So we have our estimated costs, the actual cost, and then automatically generated reporting and tracking with alerts for how we're performing as a program and for that move against the actual costs. And then I can slice and dice this however I want to. I can drill down by a specific employee. I can look in terms of a business unit, or if I want to do it just by a country, by host country program. And this gives me, most importantly, live, ongoing insights into how we're performing at a financial level. And then when the business comes to me to say, okay, we need to do financial planning for the next year, I have all of the information from our actual spend in order to work with them to create a forecast spend and projected budgets. And then we can break this down by any different way one might wish, between policy type or by an actual service. And the specific configuration of these dashboards is really up to the client teams that we're working with.
Okay, so I'll take that back. We're just into our last few minutes here, but I suppose the question maybe I'll ask this one to you, Yael, is, I mean, this is a game changer, isn't it? We're moving from, if you like, the traditional way of doing things, which has been very, very slow and traditional and maybe even lethargic, and we're moving to a fast-paced solution. I mean, from your perspective, what is the biggest win of moving mobility from, if you like, a traditional approach to a fintech approach? Where do you see the main benefits?
I think independence for the individual is quite important. I mean, the ability to manage the process at the palm of your hand without having to rely on someone to respond, to approve, to tell you when you can. The fact that you have not only the process itself, but all the information related to it in one place, right? And all of your requests. So one of the pages that Matt displayed, where you can very, very quickly, at a click of a button, switch between the status of your expenses and the status of your relocation allowance and the status of your pay later, if you have it. It's all in one place. You don't have to kind of start chasing the information around, and it's very empowering.
Now, empowering is a great word to use in terms of how fintech can make all our lives easier. On that note of empowerment, I'm going to bring our guests back. I'm going to bring back our wonderful change maker, Nicole Younis, our producer, Tali Goran, and of course, our immigration expert, Julia Onslow-Cole. So it's been a very interesting show talking about fintech. Julia, your update on remote working was fascinating. And Nicole, thank you for all your support as a change maker, and good luck for all the wonderful work that your charity does and the work that you do supporting Deborah's Place, especially this time of year. I think it's really important to have those sorts of places available, both over Thanksgiving and, of course, as we move into the winter months and the seasonal holidays. So that's been us from the View from the Top for another week. We are back next week with what I think is going to be a pretty unique show. We're going to be looking at global mobility. We're going to be looking at international relocation, but not through the eye of the mobility manager, not through the eye of the assignee, not through the eye of the business unit, not through the eye of the vendor, but through the eyes of the expat kids. So join us next week as we're talking about family footprint, moving with children. I promise you it's going to be an extraordinary show. So many thanks.
Thank you,
everybody.
Rob.
Rob says, when will we have a technology for me to electronically send a homemade Thanksgiving dinner to Julia? Oh,
yes, please. Yes, please.
We're working on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, everybody, our hour is up. Everybody have a great week, and we'll have a great Thanksgiving for those of you celebrating, and we'll see you all again next week. Take care, everybody, and have a great week.
Thank you.